The morning Alex Chen saved Emma Sullivan's life, he was already running late for his third job of the day. He never imagined his worn sneakers, patched together with duct tape, would leave footprints in the marble lobby of Riverside Plaza, or that his calloused hands, rough from countless hours of manual labor, would touch the finest silk suit in Manhattan. But sometimes, destiny arrives in the moment we least expect it, wearing the face of desperation and carrying a blade. Before we dive deeper into this story of fate, courage, and unexpected connections, tell us where you're watching from. If this tale of two worlds colliding speaks to you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow's story will show you how a single moment of bravery can echo through generations. The autumn wind whipped through Cedar Grove's narrow streets, sending discarded takeout menus dancing across cracked sidewalks. Alex Chen's breath came out in visible puffs as he jogged toward the bus stop, his threadbare jacket doing little against the morning chill. At 26, his life had become a carefully orchestrated dance of multiple jobs, precise bus schedules, and just enough sleep to keep going. "Hey, Alex!" Maria Garcia called out from Sunshine Café, where steam rose from fresh coffee and the scent of baked goods tempted passing commuters. "You're working tonight?" "Always working, Maria." He managed a genuine smile despite his exhaustion. His evening shift at her cafe was actually the highlight of his day, the only job where he felt like more than just another replaceable worker. The familiar rumble of the 6:15 a.m. bus sent him sprinting the last few yards. His first job of the day, maintenance work at Metropolitan General, started at 7 a.m. sharp. From there, he'd head to his midday security shift at a local retail store, before ending at Sunshine Café. 3 jobs, 7 days a week, all to keep his head above water and help pay for his elderly neighbor Lucas's medical bills. What Alex didn't know, as he claimed his usual spot near the back of the bus, was that across town, in the gleaming heights of Riverside Plaza, Emma Sullivan was already at her desk. The 32-year-old CEO of Sullivan Technologies had inherited her father's company 2 years ago, and in that time, she'd transformed it from a struggling tech firm into one of the city's fastest-growing corporations. Miss Sullivan, Sarah Thompson, her executive assistant, entered with the morning's schedule. The board meeting's been moved up to 9 a.m., and Mr. Crawford's team sent another acquisition proposal. Emma's fingers paused over her keyboard. Richard Crawford, CEO of Crawford Enterprises, had been trying to force a hostile takeover for months. His latest tactics had grown increasingly aggressive, but Emma had built too much to let it all slip away now. "Tell them the same thing we always do, Sarah. Sullivan Technologies isn't for sale." Her voice carried the quiet authority that had earned her respect in a male-dominated industry, even as others dismissed her as just daddy's little girl playing CEO. The morning unfolded like any other. Alex finished his maintenance shift, his uniform collecting the usual mix of dust and cleaning solution. Emma navigated board meetings and development deadlines, her Louboutins clicking purposefully across polished floors. 2 different worlds, spinning in parallel, unaware they were about to violently intersect. The first warning came as a whisper. David Miller, head of security at Sullivan Technologies, noticed something off about the new maintenance crew Crawford Enterprises had recommended for after-hours cleaning. Their paperwork looked perfect, too perfect. But before he could dig deeper, before he could warn Emma, events were already in motion. Alex's midday security shift had ended early, a rare stroke of luck that meant he might actually arrive early for his evening cafe work. As he cut through the Parkview district, a shortcut he rarely took because its opulent buildings made him feel even more out of place than usual, he noticed a sleek town car idling outside Riverside Plaza. Something about the driver's posture, the way he kept checking his mirrors, triggered the instincts Alex had developed during his brief stint in private security work, a job he'd lost for questioning his superiors about suspicious activities. Inside Riverside Plaza's 47th floor, Emma was working late, as usual. Sarah had left an hour ago, along with most of the regular staff. Only the new maintenance crew remained, their presence making the office feel different, charged with an unfamiliar tension. "Miss Sullivan," a voice called from her office doorway. "There's a spill in the conference room that needs your attention." Emma looked up, frowning. Why would maintenance need her to inspect a spill? But before she could voice her question, she saw the glint of metal in the man's hand. The next few moments exploded into chaos. Two more men appeared, their maintenance uniforms doing little to hide their muscular builds. Emma's finger found the panic button under her desk, but nothing happened. The security system had been disabled. "Just come quietly," the first man said, his voice cold and professional. "Mr. Crawford only wants to have a conversation about the company's future." Time slowed to a crawl. Emma thought of her father, of the promise she'd made to protect his legacy. She thought of her employees, their families, everything she'd built. In that moment of crystal clarity, she made her choice. She ran. Here's where fate played its hand. Alex, trusting his instincts, had entered Riverside Plaza. His worn sneakers moved silently across the lobby's marble floors as he followed his gut feeling up to the executive floors. He'd probably get arrested for trespassing, but something felt wrong, and Alex Chen had learned long ago that doing nothing was the same as doing wrong. The stairwell door burst open on the 47th floor just as Emma Sullivan rounded the corner. At full speed, three men in close pursuit. Time compressed into a single moment of decision. Emma's eyes, wide with fear but blazing with defiance, met Alex's. In that fraction of a second, he saw something he recognized, the look of someone who would rather break than bend. Alex's mind processed the scene in fragments, the terror in Emma Sullivan's eyes, the metallic glint of weapons, the way the pursuers moved with professional precision. His years of observing people, a survival skill honed through countless hours of security work, told him these weren't ordinary criminals. Their movements were too coordinated, their approach too tactical. "In here!" Alex's voice cut through the tension as he grabbed Emma's arm, pulling her toward a service corridor he'd noticed earlier. His time doing maintenance work had taught him that every building had its secrets, its hidden pathways known only to those who kept its systems running. The pursuers reacted instantly, their coordinated movements confirming Alex's suspicions about their training. But they hadn't spent years navigating service corridors and maintenance shafts, hadn't learned the invisible maps that existed in every building's bones. "Trust me," Alex said, as he guided Emma through a maze of utility passages. The irony wasn't lost on him. A CEO in a silk suit worth more than his monthly income, putting her life in the hands of a man whose shoes were held together with duct tape. "How do you know your way around here?" Emma managed between breaths, her designer heels clicking against the concrete floor. "I've worked maintenance in buildings like this," Alex replied, listening for their pursuers. "When you can't afford to live in these towers, you learn how they breathe instead." They emerged into a secondary corridor, just as heavy footsteps echoed behind them. Alex's mind raced through options, drawing on experience from jobs most would consider beneath them. Each position he'd held, every skill he'd learned while struggling to survive, suddenly became invaluable. "The service elevator," he whispered, guiding Emma around a corner. "It runs on a separate system from the main elevators. If they've disabled security, they might have missed this one." Emma studied him with new eyes, seeing beyond the worn clothes to the sharp intelligence beneath. "The maintenance systems are isolated," she confirmed. "It's a security protocol I implemented last year." They reached the service elevator just as their pursuers' voices grew closer. Alex pressed the call button, silently willing the ancient machinery to move faster. The digital display showed the car ascending from the basement, each number bringing either salvation or capture. "If this works," Emma said quietly, "I owe you more than—" "Don't," Alex interrupted, his eyes on the corridor. "Not out of danger yet." The elevator dinged, its doors creaking open with agonizing slowness. They slipped inside just as their pursuers rounded the corner. Alex's finger found the basement button as the first attacker reached the closing doors. "They'll be waiting at the bottom," Emma noted, her business mind already analyzing angles and options. "No," Alex smiled slightly. "They won't." He pressed a combination of buttons, a trick he'd learned from a veteran elevator mechanic during his maintenance days. The car shuddered to a stop between floors. "What are you doing?" Emma's composure cracked slightly. "We're trapped." "We're buying time," Alex corrected, pulling out his phone. "Your head of security, what's his number?" Emma's eyes widened with understanding. She rattled off David Miller's direct line, watching as Alex's worn fingers dialed. "Mr. Miller, my name's Alex Chen. I'm in service elevator B with Emma Sullivan. There are at least 3 armed men in the building, professional training, likely connected to Crawford Enterprises."
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
His voice was clear, precise, delivering critical information without wasting words. David Miller's response was immediate and professional. "Police are already en route. Can you keep her safe for 8 more minutes?" "Yes," Alex replied, studying. "The elevator's maintenance panel, but they'll override the system soon. We'll need to move." "Understood. Security teams are blocking all ground exits. Get to the loading dock. We'll have people waiting." Alex ended the call, turning to find Emma watching him intently. "You're more than just maintenance," she observed. "And you're more than just a CEO playing with Daddy's company," he countered, recalling rumors he'd heard about Sullivan Technologies' remarkable turnaround. "Those men, they're not here to kidnap you, are they? This is about your company." Emma's expression hardened. "Richard Crawford thinks if he can force a private meeting, he can intimidate me into selling. He doesn't understand what this company means to me, to every employee who depends on us." The elevator's control panel sparked, indicating their pursuers were working to override the system. Alex accessed the maintenance hatch, years of physical labor making the task look effortless. "We need to climb down 1 floor," he explained. "There's a ventilation shaft that connects to the loading dock. It'll be tight, but better than waiting here," Emma finished. She slipped off her Louboutins, holding them in one hand. "Lead the way, Mr. Chen." The next few minutes tested them both. Alex's knowledge of the building's infrastructure guided them through spaces never meant for designer suits or human passage. Emma's determination surprised him. She navigated the cramped spaces without complaint, her focus entirely on survival. They emerged into the loading dock's upper level just as police sirens became audible in the distance. David Miller's voice crackled over Emma's phone, confirming security teams were in position. "Almost clear," Alex whispered, scanning the area. His instincts, the same ones that had drawn him into this situation, screamed a warning. "Wait!" The loading dock's shadows shifted. 2 more men emerged, their movements matching their colleagues upstairs. These weren't Crawford's usual corporate soldiers. These were professionals, probably ex-military or special forces. "Back," Alex mouthed, guiding Emma behind a stack of crates. His mind raced through options, drawing on every job, every skill, every hard-learned lesson of his difficult life. The men moved with practiced efficiency, sweeping the area with professional thoroughness. They were well-trained, well-equipped, and completely unprepared for someone who understood the invisible infrastructure of their battlefield. Alex reached up, his fingers finding the industrial fire suppression system's manual release. Years of maintenance work had taught him that every system had a weakness and a potential weapon. "Cover your mouth and nose," he whispered to Emma. "And when I say run, head straight for the police lights." She nodded, her eyes showing complete trust in this stranger who had turned his hardships into armor. Alex waited until both men were directly beneath the sprinkler system. With a sharp twist, he activated the emergency release. The loading dock instantly filled with fire suppression foam, the high-pressure system turning the space into chaos. "Run!" They burst from their hiding place as their pursuers struggled with the unexpected assault. Emma's stocking feet moved silently across the concrete, Alex close behind. They emerged into the flashing lights of police cars, just as David Miller's security team swarmed the loading dock. In the safety of the police perimeter, Emma finally turned to really look at her unlikely savior. Alex Chen stood awkwardly in, his worn clothes, foam clinging to his patched jacket, somehow appearing both completely out of place and exactly where he belonged. "How can I ever—" she began. "Miss Sullivan!" Sarah Thompson pushed through the crowd of officers, tablet in hand. "Crawford's men are in custody. They're already talking. Apparently, he hired ex-military contractors to force a private negotiation." "Negotiation?" Emma's voice dripped with contempt. "Corporate kidnapping is more accurate." She turned back to Alex, but he was already slipping away into the crowd, his shift at Sunshine Café calling. "Wait," she called out. "I don't even know your full name." Alex paused, looking back at this woman who had shown such courage under pressure. "Alex Chen," he said simply, "but I really have to get to work." As he walked away, Emma Sullivan watched with newfound understanding. In a single hour, this man had shattered every preconception she'd held about strength, capability, and worth. What she didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that this was only the beginning. The morning after the incident at Riverside Plaza, Alex Chen arrived at Metropolitan General for his maintenance shift, just like any other day. His muscles ached from crawling through service ducts, and his patched jacket still smelled faintly of fire suppression foam. But bills didn't pay themselves. He had exactly 23 minutes before his shift to check on his elderly neighbor Lucas in the hospital's East Wing. What Alex didn't expect was to find Emma Sullivan standing in Lucas's doorway, engaged in quiet conversation with his neighbor. She'd traded yesterday's foam-stained silk suit for a more subtle business ensemble, but her presence was no less commanding. "Mr. Chen," she turned as he approached, her smile genuine. "I hoped I'd find you here." Lucas's weathered face broke into a knowing grin. "Alex, you didn't tell me you knew the CEO of Sullivan Technologies." "I don't," Alex started. "He saved my life yesterday," Emma interrupted smoothly, "though he disappeared before I could properly thank him." Her eyes took in his maintenance uniform, understanding dawning in her expression. "This is your first job of the day, isn't it?" Before Alex could respond, Sarah Thompson appeared at Emma's elbow, tablet in hand. "Miss Sullivan, the board is waiting for your statement about yesterday's incident, and Mr. Miller needs to review the new security protocols." "Tell them I'll be there in 30 minutes, Emma replied, her eyes not leaving Alex. "Mr. Chen and I need to discuss something first." Alex felt a flutter of anxiety. He couldn't afford to be late for his shift, couldn't risk losing any of his jobs. "Miss Sullivan, I appreciate the gesture, but please," she held up a hand. "Call me Emma, and this won't take long." She turned to Lucas. "It was a pleasure meeting you, Mr. Wright. I'll have my office follow up about that physical therapy program we discussed." Lucas beamed, and Alex felt a surge of curiosity about their conversation. Emma guided him to a quiet corner of the hospital corridor, away from curious ears. "I spent all night thinking about yesterday," she began, "about how every skill you used to save me came from jobs most people in my position would consider beneath them, about how you knew every hidden passage, every system weakness, because you'd worked the jobs that keep our world running. Alex shifted uncomfortably. I just did what anyone would do. No, Emma's voice was firm. You did what only someone with your unique experience could do, and that's why I'm here. She gestured to Sarah, who handed her a folder. I want to offer you a job, Mr. Chen, Head of Infrastructure Security at Sullivan Technologies. Alex stared at the folder, not reaching for it. I'm not qualified. I don't have the right degrees, the right background. You have exactly the right background, Emma interrupted. Yesterday proved that. Crawford's men were ex-military, trained professionals, and you outmaneuvered them using nothing but maintenance knowledge and quick thinking. That's the kind of security perspective we need. The salary figure in the folder made Alex's head spin. It was more than he made in a year at all 3 jobs combined. But something held him back. What about Lucas's medical bills? He asked. The physical therapy he needs isn't covered by insurance. That's why I... Already taken care of, Emma smiled. Sullivan Technologies has a partnership with Metropolitan General. Mr. Wright has been enrolled in our employee family healthcare program. Backdated, of course. Alex's mind raced. The opportunity was incredible, but I can't leave Maria short-staffed at the cafe. She depends on... I took the liberty of stopping by Sunshine Cafe this morning. Emma's eyes twinkled. Maria's very proud of you, by the way. We're setting up a corporate account. Sullivan Technologies will be ordering all our catering through her. She's actually going to need to hire more staff. Alex felt overwhelmed. In less than 24 hours, this woman had dismantled every obstacle in his path. But one question remained. Why? He asked simply. Why go to all this trouble? Emma's expression grew serious. Because yesterday showed me a blind spot in how I've been running my company. We have highly trained security teams, advanced systems, all the expensive solutions money can buy. But we never thought to consult the people who really know how our buildings work, who understand their secrets and vulnerabilities. She gestured at his maintenance uniform. These jobs you've been working, they've given you insights my highest paid consultants don't have, and I suspect you're not the only one. There are probably thousands of people out there with valuable knowledge and skills we overlook because they don't fit our preconceptions of expertise. Sarah cleared her throat quietly. Miss Sullivan, the board. Emma nodded. Think about it, she told Alex, pressing the folder into his hands. The position is yours if you want it, and either way, Mr. Wright's medical care is taken care of. You've earned at least that much. As she turned to leave, Alex found his voice. What will the board say? About you hiring someone like me? Emma's smile turned slightly wicked. The same board that yesterday watched a maintenance worker and part-time security guard outwit professional kidnappers and save their CEO. I think they'll manage. She paused. Besides, after what Crawford pulled, they're in no position to question my hiring decisions. After she left, Alex stood in the hospital corridor, folder in hand, his world tilting on its axis. Lucas's voice came from his room. Take the job, son, the old man advised. Some opportunities come once in a lifetime. It's not that simple, Alex protested weakly. It never is, Lucas agreed. But that woman sees something in you that I've been seeing for years. The way you piece things together, how you're always 3 steps ahead in solving problems. You've been surviving when you should have been thriving. Alex opened the folder again, reading through the details. The position would allow him to build a new kind of security team, drawing on perspectives and experiences traditional corporate security overlooked. He thought of all the people he'd met working his various jobs, the elevator mechanics who knew every building's quirks, the cleaning staff who could map out every access point, the security guards who noticed patterns others missed. His phone buzzed. A text from Maria at the cafe. That CEO lady ordered lunch for 200 people, says it's just the beginning. Don't you dare feel guilty about taking that job, Alex Chen. Some of us have been waiting years to see you get your chance." Mike Rodriguez, his friend from the retail security job, texted next. "Heard you're going corporate. About time someone recognized what you can do. P.S. Any chance your new company needs regular security staff? Asking for a friend? It's me. I'm the friend." Standing there, messages of support flooding in from people whose lives had intertwined. With his, during his years of multiple jobs, Alex began to see Emma's vision. It wasn't just about giving him an opportunity. It was about recognizing the value in perspectives that the corporate world usually ignored. He thought about the previous day, how every menial job he'd worked had given him exactly the knowledge needed to save Emma Sullivan's life. Maybe it was time to stop seeing his background as a limitation and start seeing it as the unique qualification it was. 1 week after accepting Emma Sullivan's offer, Alex Chen stood in front of his bathroom mirror, adjusting a tie that cost more than his old weekly grocery budget. The crisp navy suit, provided by Sullivan Technologies' corporate outfitter, felt like a costume. Yet when he looked in the mirror, he saw his father's eyes staring back at him, the same quiet determination that had carried his family through their first difficult years in America. "Your perspective is valuable precisely because it's different," Emma had told him during their first official meeting. "Don't try to become like everyone else in the corporate world. We need you to be exactly who you are." Those words echoed in his mind as he entered Riverside Plaza's marble lobby, this time through the front door instead of sneaking in to save someone's life. The same security guard who had watched him suspiciously last week now nodded respectfully. "Mr. Chen," David Miller greeted him at the executive elevator. The head of traditional security had been surprisingly supportive of Alex's appointment. "Ready for your first executive meeting?" "Ready as I'll ever be," Alex replied, noting how the security team's positioning had changed since the Crawford incident. "Though I see you've already implemented some of my suggestions about guard rotation patterns," Miller smiled. "Your note about predictable patrol timing creating exploitable gaps, that alone justified Miss Sullivan's decision to hire you." The executive floor had transformed in the past week. New security measures blended seamlessly with the existing architecture, many based on Alex's observations about the building's vulnerable points. But the real test would come in the next few minutes. "Ladies and gentlemen," Emma's voice carried across the boardroom as Alex entered. "I'd like to introduce Alexander Chen, our new head of infrastructure security. Some of you may remember him from last week's excitement." The board members' reactions ranged from curious to skeptical. James Wilson, the most conservative board member, didn't bother hiding his disdain. "Miss Sullivan," Wilson interrupted, "while we all appreciate Mr. Chen's timely intervention last week, surely there are more qualified candidates for such a sensitive position." Alex felt all eyes turned to him. A week ago, he would have shrunk from such scrutiny. But a week ago, he hadn't saved a CEO's life using nothing but maintenance knowledge and quick thinking. "Mr. Wilson," Alex stepped forward, his voice steady. "Would you mind telling me about the security features of this boardroom?" Wilson blinked. "We have state-of-the-art electronic surveillance, biometric access controls, and 3 unauthorized access points that any maintenance worker could use to bypass all of it," Alex finished. He walked to the decorative wall panel behind Wilson's seat. This utility chase runs straight down to the 32nd floor. The access panel lock was broken 3 months ago during routine electrical work. Nobody reported it because maintenance staff aren't included in security briefings. He moved to the ceiling. The HVAC system here connects to a service corridor that spans 3 floors. Anyone with basic building maintenance experience could navigate it. Finally, he gestured to the floor, and the raised flooring for computer cables creates a crawl space that connects to the adjacent office suite. The boardroom had gone completely silent. Alex continued. Your expensive security systems are excellent at stopping traditional threats, but they have a blind spot. The invisible infrastructure that people like me work with every day. That's the perspective I bring to this position. Rachel Foster, another board member, leaned forward with interest. How many other vulnerabilities like this exist in the building? I've identified 47 so far, Alex replied. That's just in the executive floors. But more importantly, I've identified the people who can help us find and secure them all. The maintenance staff, cleaning crews, and security personnel who know this building's secrets because they work with them every day. Emma's smile carried a hint of triumph. This is exactly why we needed Alex's perspective. Crawford's men didn't break through our security systems. They used service areas our traditional security overlooked. Areas that our maintenance and support staff work in every day. Which brings me to my first proposal. Alex clicked open the presentation he'd prepared. The screen filled with a comprehensive security integration plan that merged traditional corporate security with infrastructure awareness. For the next hour, Alex outlined his vision for a security system that didn't just protect against external threats, but actually integrated the knowledge of every person who worked in the building. His experience juggling multiple jobs had taught him how different workplace perspectives could complement each other. We're not just hiring more security personnel, he explained. We're creating a system that recognizes and values the insights of everyone who keeps this building running. The maintenance worker who notices a broken lock, the cleaning staff member who spots unusual activity during night shifts, the security guard who recognizes patterns in visitor behavior. These are all vital intelligence sources we've been ignoring. As he spoke, Alex saw understanding dawn in the board members' eyes. Even Wilson's skepticism had given way to reluctant interest. This wasn't just about security. It was about recognizing the value in perspectives that corporate America typically overlooked. There's more, Alex continued. I've already received applications from highly qualified candidates who were overlooked by traditional corporate recruiting. People with unique combinations of skills and experiences that don't fit normal hiring parameters. He projected a series of profiles: a former maintenance supervisor with a self-taught expertise in systems integration, a night cleaning manager who had independently mapped every access point in 3 major buildings, a security guard who had developed an innovative patrol optimization system in his spare time. These are the kind of minds we've been missing, Alex explained. People who understand both the physical and systemic vulnerabilities of corporate infrastructure because they've worked directly with it. James Wilson cleared his throat. The cost of implementing these changes will be offset by the reduction in security breaches and infrastructure failures, Emma interjected. Alex has already provided a detailed cost-benefit analysis. Sarah, please distribute the reports. As Sarah Thompson handed out tablets containing his analysis, Alex felt a subtle shift in the room's energy. He was no longer the maintenance worker playing a corporate executive. He was a professional whose unique background gave him invaluable insights into corporate security. One more thing, Alex added, thinking of his friend Mike from his old security job. I'd like to implement a talent identification program. There are people working in maintenance, security, and support roles across this city with incredible potential. We're not just improving our security, we're creating opportunities for others who might otherwise be overlooked. Emma's eyes met his across the boardroom, her approval evident. She had taken a chance on him, and he was already working to extend that opportunity to others. As the meeting concluded, board members clustered around Alex, asking questions and offering suggestions. Rachel Foster was particularly interested in expanding the talent identification program to other departments. Sometimes, she mused, the best way to solve corporate problems is to look beyond corporate solutions. 1 month into his role at Sullivan Technologies, Alex Chen's office on the 47th floor still felt surreal. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of his old bus stop, now looking impossibly small from this height. On his desk, a framed photo showed the staff of Sunshine Café celebrating their first major corporate catering contract. Maria's proud smile reminded him daily of where he came from. "Your next appointment is here." His assistant, Kevin, a former night security guard with an uncanny talent for organization, announced through the intercom. And Miss Sullivan asked to join the meeting. Alex straightened his tie, a gesture that was becoming more natural. "Send them in." Mike Rodriguez, his friend from his retail security days, entered with barely concealed awe. Emma Sullivan followed, her presence making the spacious office feel somehow more intimate. Alex stood, greeting his friend with a warmth that corporate protocol couldn't diminish. "Welcome to Sullivan Technologies." "This is insane, man," Mike whispered, then quickly corrected himself. "I mean, thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chen." "Alex," Emma interrupted smoothly, taking a seat, "tell me why you specifically requested Mr. Rodriguez for the pilot program." Alex clicked open a presentation on his tablet. Mike has been developing a predictive security protocol at the retail level for the past 3 years. Without any corporate backing or formal training, he created a system that reduced theft by 63% in his store. Mike shifted uncomfortably. "It's just a basic pattern recognition thing." "It's brilliant," Alex corrected. "You identified behavioral indicators that traditional security training overlooks, and you did it while working full-time, using nothing but observation and a free coding app on your phone." Emma studied Mike with new interest. "Show me." For the next 30 minutes, Mike walked them through his system. As his confidence grew, his natural intelligence shone through. He explained how he'd noticed subtle patterns in customer behavior, correlations between store layout and security incidents, even weather-related factors that influenced theft attempts. "The thing is," Mike concluded, "most security protocols are reactive. But if you understand the human elements, the environmental factors, you can prevent incidents before they happen." Emma's eyes met Alex's across the desk. There it was again, that unique perspective that came from real-world experience rather than theoretical training. "Mr. Rodriguez," Emma smiled, "how would you like to develop this system for all Sullivan Technologies properties? With actual resources this time?" Mike's jaw dropped. Are you serious?" "Welcome to the team," Alex grinned. "Your office is 2 doors down from mine." After Mike left, still dazed by his sudden change in fortune, Emma lingered. "You're building something remarkable here, Alex. It's more than just security innovation. You're changing how we think about talent and expertise." "I'm just getting started," Alex admitted. "There are so many others out there like Mike, like I was. People with incredible abilities who just need a chance to prove themselves." Emma moved to the window, looking down at the city spread below. "Them. I've been thinking about expanding this beyond security. Every department could benefit from this kind of fresh perspective." She turned back to him. "Would you be interested in helping develop a company-wide talent identification program?" Alex felt his pulse quicken, and not just from the professional opportunity. Every interaction with Emma seemed charged with unspoken potential. "You're already giving me more responsibility than I ever dreamed of." "Because you've more than proved yourself," Emma replied. "In the past month, you've revolutionized our security protocols, identified talent we would have overlooked, and..." She paused, a slight flush coloring her cheeks. "And you've made me see my own company in a completely new way." The moment stretched between them, full of possibility. Then Sarah's voice came through the intercom, breaking the spell. "Miss Sullivan, the Crawford Enterprises board members have arrived for the settlement discussion." Emma straightened, professional mask sliding back into place. "Duty calls. But think about what I said, Alex. This company needs your perspective now more than ever. After she left, Alex leaned back in his chair, processing. Through his window, he could see Richard Crawford's town car arriving at the building. The man who had inadvertently changed Alex's life by trying to kidnap Emma was now watching his own company crumble under the weight of criminal charges and shareholder revolts. Alex's phone buzzed with a text from Lucas. "Saw my new physical therapist today. She says I'm making incredible progress. You did good, son." Another message followed, this one from Maria. "Corporate lunch order doubled. Again, had to hire 3 new staff. Still mad at you for leaving, but in a good way." Success felt different than Alex had imagined. It wasn't about the corner office or the expensive suit. It was about being able to help others the way Emma had helped him. Speaking of which, he pulled up the draft proposal he'd been working on. Community Talent Initiative, identifying and developing overlooked potential. The program would create pathways for people like him, like Mike, people whose abilities were hidden behind job titles society undervalued. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. David Miller entered, looking concerned. "Alex, we've got a situation. One of the maintenance staff reported suspicious activity in the sub-basement. Normally I wouldn't bother you with this, but given what happened with Crawford..." Alex was already on his feet. "Show me the report." As they headed to the security center, Alex reflected on how different this felt from his maintenance days. He wasn't just responding to problems now. He was helping prevent them, creating systems that protected people, creating opportunities that changed lives. The security center hummed with activity. On the monitors, Alex could see the sub-basement from multiple angles. Something about the maintenance workers' movements caught his eye. "Pause that footage," he instructed. "There. See how he's checking sightlines instead of actual maintenance points? That's not a maintenance worker's behavior pattern." Miller nodded appreciatively. "I'll never stop being amazed at how you spot these things." "Experience," Alex shrugged. "When you've actually done the job, you know how people should move when they're really doing it." He studied the footage more closely. This is professional, very professional, but not Crawford's style. A quiet cough made them turn. Emma stood in the doorway, concern evident in her expression. "Alex, we need to talk. Someone's been trying to access our new security protocols. They're not after the company this time. They're after your innovations." Alex felt a familiar surge of adrenaline, the same one he'd felt that day in the service corridors. But this time, he wasn't a maintenance worker protecting a CEO. He was a security expert defending his vision, his team, and maybe something more. The security center's monitors cast a blue glow across Emma Sullivan's face as she explained the situation. 3 attempts to breach our new protocols in the past week, all of them sophisticated, all targeting your specific innovations. Alex studied the data scrolling across the screens, his mind already shifting into the analytical mode that had served him through countless challenges. "These aren't random hackers," he observed. "They know exactly what they're looking for." "Indeed, quantum securities," Emma confirmed his suspicion. "They're Crawford's biggest competitor in the corporate security sector. Our new approach is making their traditional systems look obsolete." David Miller pulled up another screen. "The maintenance worker in the sub-basement, facial recognition just got a hit. Former quantum employee now working freelance." Alex's lips tightened. "They're not just after our security protocols. They're trying to understand how we think, how we spot vulnerabilities they miss." He turned to Emma. "How much does the board know?" "Nothing yet," she admitted. "I wanted your input first. These aren't just company secrets at risk. This is your vision, Alex, your innovations." The way she said his name made his pulse quicken, but Alex forced himself to focus. "We need to do something they won't expect," something that goes against everything corporate security typically does in these situations. Emma raised an eyebrow. What are you thinking? Let them in. What? Miller's shock was evident. Not really, Alex clarified, but make them think they've found a way in. Create a vulnerability that looks exactly like what they'd expect to find. A gap in traditional security that maintenance knowledge could exploit. Understanding dawned in Emma's eyes. A trap. Better, Alex smiled. A lesson. One that proves exactly why our new approach works. He turned to Miller. Remember how you said I see things differently? Time to show quantum securities just how valuable that different perspective can be. Over the next few hours, Alex's office became a command center. Mike Rodriguez joined them, his pattern recognition skills proving invaluable as they constructed their countermove. Kevin coordinated with various department heads, ensuring every piece fell perfectly into place. The beauty of it, Alex explained, as they worked, is that they're expecting us to think like corporate security experts. But that's not who we are. We're people who understand how buildings really work, how systems connect in ways that fancy consultants never consider. Emma watched him work with undisguised admiration. The maintenance worker who had saved her life had transformed into a confident security expert. Yet he'd never lost the practical wisdom that made him unique. You know what this reminds me of, she said quietly, standing close enough that her perfume made it hard for Alex to concentrate. That day in the service corridors, you knew exactly how to move, where to go, because you understood the building in a way my expensive security team didn't. Alex met her eyes, remembering the trust she'd placed in him that day. Sometimes the best solutions come from the places and people others overlook. Their moment was interrupted by Mike's excited voice. They took the bait, sub-basement, access point just recorded an entry. The monitors showed a figure moving through the maintenance areas, following exactly the path they'd laid out. Alex's trap was elegant in its simplicity. It used Quantum's own assumptions against them. They think they're exploiting maintenance vulnerabilities, he explained to the team, but really, they're showing us exactly how they think, how they operate. Every move they make tells us more about their approach. Emma leaned over his shoulder, her presence both distracting and inspiring, and the real security. Already adapted, Alex grinned. While they're chasing shadows in the sub-basement, our actual protocols are evolving based on their attack patterns. Mike's predictive system is analyzing their every move. The figure on the screen reached what they thought was their target, a seemingly vulnerable server room. The moment they breached the door, lights flooded the area. Ladies and gentlemen, Alex's voice came through the room's speakers. Welcome to Sullivan Technologies. We've been expecting you. The intruder froze, realizing too late that they'd walked into a carefully orchestrated demonstration. Security teams emerged from concealed positions, but not to arrest, to observe and document. You came looking for our secrets, Alex continued, but what you've really found is proof of why your traditional approach needs to change. Every move you made, every vulnerability you thought you found was predicted and prepared for hours ago. Emma stepped forward, adding her own voice to the speakers. Sullivan Technologies would like to make you an offer, not for our security protocols, those aren't for sale, but for a chance to learn, to evolve, to understand why the future of corporate security lies in perspectives you've been ignoring. The intruder, a woman Alex recognized as one of Quantum's top security consultants, slowly raised her hands. How did you know? Because, Alex replied, we stopped thinking like security experts and started thinking like the people who actually keep these buildings running. The same people you've been overlooking for years. In the aftermath, as Miller's team debriefed the Quantum operative, Emma pulled Alex aside. They stood by his office windows, the city lights creating a backdrop of twinkling stars below them. "That was brilliant," she said softly. "You didn't just stop their attack, you turned it into an opportunity to demonstrate why our approach works." "It wasn't just me," Alex demurred. "Mike's pattern recognition, Kevin's coordination, the entire team, all people whose talents might never have been discovered if you hadn't shown us how to look," Emma interrupted. She stepped closer, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "Alex, Sarah's voice through the intercom shattered the moment. "Miss Sullivan, Quantum Security's CEO is on line 1. He's requesting an urgent meeting." Emma closed her eyes briefly, frustration evident in her expression. "Take a message, Sarah. I'm in the middle of something important." Alex's heart raced at the implications of her choosing this moment over a crucial business call. "Emma, I'm tired of interruptions," she said quietly. "Tired of pretending I don't feel what I feel." Her hand moved from his arm to his face, thumb brushing his cheek. "You've changed everything. My company, my perspective, my heart." The city lights twinkled behind them as the distance between them slowly closed. Alex thought of all the twists of fate that had brought them here. A maintenance job, a moment of courage, a chance to prove that worth wasn't measured by titles or backgrounds. The morning headlines blazed across every major business publication. "Sullivan Technologies revolutionizes corporate security." Alex Chen's phone hadn't stopped buzzing since dawn. Interview requests, speaking invitations, and congratulatory messages flooding his inbox. But his attention was fixed on a much smaller detail. The soft smile Emma Sullivan gave him as she passed his office, their shared secret making the crowded building feel intimate. "The Quantum Security's CEO is waiting in the main conference room," Kevin announced, trying to hide his excitement, along with representatives from 3 other major security firms. Alex straightened his tie, the same one he'd worn on his first day, now a personal lucky charm. "Any word from Emma?" "Miss Sullivan is already there. She insisted on handling the preliminary discussions personally." The past 12 hours had transformed Sullivan Technologies' position in the corporate world. After the failed infiltration attempt, Quantum Securities had gone from competitor to potential partner. Their CEO, Marcus Reynolds, had spent the night reviewing the security footage, becoming increasingly convinced that Alex's innovative approach was the future of corporate security. As Alex approached the conference room, he heard Emma's voice, confident and clear. "Our methods aren't for sale, but if you're interested in learning and evolving, we're open to discussion." He entered to find the room packed with security industry leaders. Marcus Reynolds, a man whose net worth could buy small countries, stood as Alex entered. "Mr. Chen, your reputation precedes you." "Just Alex," he replied, taking his place beside Emma. Their shoulders brushed slightly, sending electricity through his body. "And I'm just someone who learned to see things differently." "That's exactly why we're here," Reynolds leaned forward. "What you've created, this integration of practical experience with high-level security, it's revolutionary. We want to work with you, learn from you." Emma's hand found Alex's under the conference table, her fingers intertwining with his. "Actually," she addressed the room, "we have a larger vision in mind." "Alex?" Drawing strength from her touch, Alex outlined the plan they'd discussed in whispered conversations the night before. Sullivan Technologies isn't interested in merely selling security solutions. We want to transform how corporate America thinks about talent, expertise, and opportunity. He clicked open his presentation, showing the community talent initiative he'd been developing. Every person in this room has walked past brilliant minds without seeing them. The maintenance worker who understands building systems better than any engineer. the security guard who's developed innovative patrol protocols in their spare time, the cleaning staff who know every access point and blind spot in your buildings. Reynolds frowned. You're suggesting we recruit from service workers? I'm suggesting, Alex's voice carried the quiet authority he'd learned from Emma, that we stop assuming expertise only comes with degrees and certifications, that we learn to value the knowledge that comes from real-world experience. Emma took over smoothly. Sullivan Technologies is proposing a partnership, not just for security solutions, but for a complete reimagining of corporate talent development. We're creating a program that identifies and nurtures potential in places most companies never think to look. Alex brought up the next slide, showing the success stories they'd already created. Mike Rodriguez's security innovations, Kevin's organizational systems, the maintenance worker who'd redesigned their emergency response protocols based on years of hands-on experience. This isn't charity, Alex emphasized. It's smart business. The people who keep our buildings running, who work in the shadows of corporate America, they see things we miss, understand systems in ways theory can't teach. As he spoke, Alex felt the room's energy shift. These titans of industry, who had initially come to buy a security system, were beginning to see a larger opportunity. The program has 3 phases, Emma continued, her thumb tracing circles on Alex's palm under the table. Identification of potential talent, development of their unique skills, and integration into corporate structures that value their perspectives. And Sullivan Technologies has already proven this works, a security firm's CEO asked. I'm proof it works, Alex replied simply. 2 months ago, I was working 3 jobs to make ends meet. Now, I'm revolutionizing corporate security because Miss Sullivan saw potential where others saw only a maintenance worker. Emma's grip tightened on his hand. Alex's journey is just the beginning. We're not just securing buildings, we're opening doors for people who've been locked out of opportunity. The meeting stretched for hours, evolving from a security discussion into a broader conversation about corporate culture and hidden talent. By the time it ended, 3 major security firms had committed to pilot programs, and Marcus Reynolds was discussing a joint venture to implement the talent initiative industry-wide. As the executives filed out, Emma held Alex back. When they were alone in the conference room, she finally released his hand, only to wrap her arms around his neck. "You were amazing," she whispered. "You didn't just sell them on security. You made them see the value in people they've been ignoring their whole careers." Alex's hands found her waist, drawing her closer. "I had a good teacher, someone who saw value in a maintenance worker, with duct-taped shoes. Speaking of which," Emma's eyes sparkled with mischief, "I think it's time we addressed the growing rumors about us." "Rumors?" Alex raised an eyebrow innocently, though his heart was racing. "Apparently," she moved closer, her lips inches from his, "some people think the CEO of Sullivan Technologies is falling for her head of security. And are they right?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Why don't you use those observational skills of yours to figure it out?" Their first kiss was interrupted by spontaneous applause. They broke apart to find Sarah, David Miller, Mike, and several board members standing in the doorway, grinning broadly. "About time," Sarah commented, tapping something into her tablet. "HR has already prepared the necessary paperwork for disclosed workplace relationships." Rachel Foster stepped forward, her approval evident. "The board has already discussed this possibility. We decided that anyone who objects to the CEO dating a former maintenance worker should review the company's profit margin since Alex joined us." Alex felt overwhelmed by the acceptance, the way these corporate leaders had embraced not just his ideas, but him. Emma seemed to sense his emotion, her hand finding his again. "Time to let everyone else in on our secret?" she asked softly. The headline in the Business Journal caught Alex's eye as he entered his office. From maintenance to romance, Sullivan Technologies' Cinderella story. Below it, a paparazzi photo showed him and Emma leaving a restaurant, their hands clasped, her head thrown back in laughter at something he'd said. "The press is having a field day," Sarah reported, tablet in hand. But surprisingly, most of the coverage is positive. Your rags to riches story, combined with the success of the talent initiative, it's resonating with people. Alex set his coffee down from Maria's Café, now a thriving business thanks to its Sullivan Technologies. Connection. Any security concerns? Already handled. David Miller appeared in the doorway, though I must say, protecting the CEO's boyfriend is an interesting addition to my duties. Speaking of duties, Emma's voice carried from behind Miller, making Alex's heart skip. We have the governor's office calling about implementing our talent program in state agencies. She entered his office, professional as always, though her eyes held a warmth reserved just for him. The past week since their relationship became public had been a whirlwind of media attention, corporate adjustments, and learning to balance their personal and professional lives. The governor, really? Alex gestured for everyone to sit. His office had become a natural meeting point, his practical approach to leadership drawing people in. Your success is inspiring people, Emma explained, taking her usual seat near his desk. The idea that talent and capability can come from unexpected places, it's challenging a lot of assumptions about corporate hierarchy. Sarah pulled up the relevant data. Applications for entry-level positions have tripled. People who never thought they had a chance at corporate careers are seeing your story and thinking, why not me? But that's not why I called this meeting. Emma's expression grew serious. Richard Crawford made bail this morning. The room fell silent. Crawford's arrest for the kidnapping attempt had been followed by charges of corporate espionage and conspiracy. But his wealth and connections had finally secured his release. He's not stupid enough to try anything, Miller assured them. His legal troubles aren't stopping him from talking to the press, Sarah interrupted, pulling up a news feed. He's giving an interview right now. The screen showed Crawford, impeccably dressed despite his recent jail time, speaking to a reporter. Sullivan Technologies' recent changes raise serious concerns. Their so-called talent initiative is destabilizing corporate protocols that have worked for decades. And as for Miss Sullivan's personal choices, well, one has to question her judgment. Alex felt Emma's hand find his under the desk. Her grip was steady, but he could sense her tension. He's trying to undermine both the initiative and our relationship, she said quietly, making it sound like both are symptoms of poor leadership. Which means we need to respond, Alex realized, not defensively, but by proving him wrong on every level. Mike Rodriguez chose that moment to burst in, his excitement overriding protocol. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. The results from the first wave of talent initiative participants just came in. The data he presented was stunning. Employees identified through their program were outperforming traditional hires in innovation, problem-solving, and system optimization. Their real-world experience, combined with corporate resources and training, was producing extraordinary results. This is exactly what we need, Emma's eyes lit up. Not just numbers, but real people whose lives have changed. Alex, remember what you told me that first day about seeing value in unexpected places? He nodded, remembering their conversation in the hospital corridor that seemed like a lifetime ago. It's time to show Crawford and everyone else exactly what that means. She turned to Sarah. Set up a press conference, but not in the corporate headquarters. I want it at Sunshine Café. Alex caught her vision immediately. Bring it back to where it all started. Show how lifting one person up can transform an entire community. The next few hours were a blur of preparation. Maria enthusiastically agreed to host the press conference, her cafe having become a symbol of the ripple effects of opportunity. Lucas, now fully recovered thanks to Sullivan Technologies' healthcare program, volunteered to share his story. As they prepared, Alex couldn't help but notice how naturally Emma fit into his old world. She chatted with Maria about business expansion plans, discussed physical therapy options with Lucas, and made every person feel valued, exactly as she had done with him. "You know what Crawford doesn't understand," she said quietly as they took a moment alone in Maria's back office. "He thinks this is about charity or social engineering. He doesn't see that we're just recognizing talent that was always there." Alex pulled her close, no longer worried about who might see. "He doesn't understand because he's never had to see the world from the bottom up. He's never known what it's like to have ability but lack opportunity." "His loss," Emma smiled up at him, "because looking at the world differently led me to you." The press conference was set for the next morning. As word spread, something unexpected happened. People from Alex's old life, maintenance workers, security guards, cleaning staff, began arriving at Sunshine Café. They brought stories of their own hidden talents, their own dreams of opportunity. Maria kept the cafe open late, serving coffee to impromptu groups discussing their hopes for the talent initiative. Alex watched as corporate executives mingled with service workers, barriers breaking down as they shared ideas and experiences. "This is bigger than us now," Emma observed, watching the scene. "It's becoming a movement." "I've been thinking," Alex said slowly. "Crawford's not entirely wrong about one thing. This is destabilizing traditional corporate structures. But maybe they need to be destabilized. Maybe it's time for a complete reimagining of how we value talent and potential." Emma's eyes sparkled with the same passion that had first drawn them together. "Mr. Chen, are you suggesting we start a revolution?" "I'm suggesting we continue what you started when you looked past my maintenance uniform and saw me." He turned to face her fully. "Every person in this cafe has something unique to offer. They just need someone to see it." As the evening wound down, Alex found himself standing in the same spot where he'd once served coffee during his evening shifts. Now he watched as business leaders and service workers exchanged contact information as dreams began taking solid form. The morning of the press conference dawned bright and clear, with a line of people stretching around the block from Sunshine Café. News vans cluttered the street, their satellite dishes reaching toward the sky like metal flowers. Inside, Maria orchestrated her expanded staff with the confidence of someone who had always known her potential. She just needed the chance to show it. "Ready for this?" Emma asked Alex as they watched the crowd from Maria's office. She looked radiant in a simple blazer and skirt, deliberately choosing something less formal than her usual corporate attire. "Born ready," Alex replied, though his heart raced. He'd chosen to wear the same jacket he'd worn the day he saved her life, patched, elbows and all. It was a statement. He hadn't forgotten where he came from. The cafe's main area had been transformed. Regular customers mingled with reporters, while success stories from the talent initiative stood ready to share their experiences. Mike Rodriguez, now heading his own security innovation team, checked camera angles with the expertise of someone who understood both security and optics. Just as Emma stepped forward to begin, a commotion at the door drew everyone's attention. Richard Crawford entered, flanked by lawyers and PR specialists. "Hope you don't mind if we join." Crawford's smile didn't reach his eyes. "As a concerned member of the business community, I felt I should be here for this interesting demonstration." Alex felt Emma tense beside him, but her voice remained steady. "Everyone's welcome, Mr. Crawford. That's rather the point." The press conference began with Emma introducing the talent initiative's results. Numbers and statistics flowed, painting a picture of unprecedented success. But it was the personal stories that captured everyone's attention. Lucas stepped forward first, his walking stick now more accessory than necessity. 6 months ago, I was a burden on my neighbor, a retired teacher with mounting medical bills. Today, I'm not just healthy, I'm consulting with Sullivan Technologies, healthcare program, helping design better patient support systems based on real patient experiences. Maria spoke next, describing how one corporate account had grown into a thriving business that employed dozens. But it's not just about the money, she emphasized. It's about recognition, about someone finally seeing the business acumen I developed, running this cafe on a shoestring budget. Throughout the presentations, Crawford sat silently, his expression calculating. When the floor opened for questions, he stood. This is all very heartwarming, his voice carried practiced concern. But let's address the elephant in the room. Miss Sullivan, isn't this entire initiative simply an attempt to justify your personal relationship with a former maintenance worker? The room fell silent. Alex felt dozens of eyes turn to him, but before he could speak, an unexpected voice rang out. I can answer that. Jenny Parker, Emma's sister and a major shareholder, stepped forward from the crowd. Her presence was a surprise. She'd been traveling abroad for months. Before Alex Chen joined Sullivan Technologies, our security division was hemorrhaging money on outdated systems and approaches. Since implementing his innovations, we've cut security breaches by 87% while reducing costs by 35%. She fixed Crawford with a steely gaze. Those numbers preceded any personal relationship. But since you brought it up, let's talk about relationships. Jenny pulled up documents on her tablet, projecting them onto the cafe's wall. These are records of your attempts to force corporate marriages, pressuring female CEOs to marry your allies or step down. Is that why you're really upset, Mr. Crawford? Because my sister found love naturally instead of submitting to your corporate matchmaking. Crawford's face reddened. That's not. Or perhaps, Alex spoke for the first time, his voice quiet but carrying. You're upset because we're proving that real talent doesn't need Ivy League credentials or family connections. That sometimes the best innovations come from people who've had to think creatively just to survive. He stepped forward, addressing not just Crawford but the entire room. Every person here has value beyond their job title. I learned that working 3 jobs, each one taught me something unique, gave me perspectives I use every day in my current role. The talent initiative isn't about charity, it's about recognizing that potential comes in all forms. Emma moved to stand beside him, their unity clear for all to see. Sullivan Technologies isn't just changing corporate hiring practices. We're challenging the very notion of what makes someone qualified. And our success speaks for itself. As if on cue, Sarah distributed the latest quarterly reports. The numbers were staggering. Productivity up, costs down, innovation metrics off the charts, but more compelling were the human stories. The janitor, whose understanding of building flow had revolutionized emergency evacuation procedures. The receptionist, whose people skills had transformed customer relations. Crawford stood to leave, but Alex called out, Mr. Crawford, the maintenance staff in your own building. Have you ever asked them for input on security vulnerabilities? The cleaning crews who work after hours? Have you considered their insights into office efficiency? The question hung in the air, making Crawford pause. For a moment, something like uncertainty crossed his face. Your companies are full of untapped potential, Emma added softly. People with unique perspectives and abilities, just waiting for someone to notice. The only question is, will you be the one to notice them? Or will your competitors? The press conference continued, but its tone had shifted. Reporters who came for a scandal found themselves writing about transformation instead. Business leaders, in attendance, began looking around the cafe, at the efficient staff, at the optimized layout, at all the small innovations that came from years of hands-on experience. Later, as the crowd thinned, Emma pulled Alex onto the cafe's small balcony. The setting sun painted the city in shades of gold, reminding him of all the evenings he'd spent working here, never imagining where life would lead. Crawford's face. When Jenny showed those documents, Emma laughed softly. I had no idea she was investigating him. Your sister's pretty impressive, Alex smiled. Must run in the family. You know, Emma turned to face him, he was right about one thing. This initiative did help justify my feelings for you. Not because it needed justification, but because it proved what I knew the moment you saved my life. That titles and backgrounds don't define what someone can achieve. The morning after the press conference, Alex arrived at Sullivan Technologies to find an unexpected visitor waiting in his office. Richard Crawford sat in one of the guest chairs, looking somehow smaller without his usual entourage of lawyers and PR specialists. Mr. Crawford, Alex kept his voice neutral as he rounded his desk. Through his office windows, he could see David Miller's security team on discreet alert. What can I do for you? I spent all night thinking, Crawford began, his usual polish replaced by something more genuine. After leaving the cafe, I decided to talk to my maintenance staff, really talk to them for the first time. He paused, seeming to struggle with his next words. They had 3 years' worth of security suggestions that my team never even considered. Alex sat down, studying the man who had gone from kidnapper to competitor to something else. And I was wrong. The admission seemed to physically pain Crawford. Not just about the talent initiative, about everything, about you, about what makes someone valuable to a company. Before Alex could respond, Emma appeared in the doorway. She'd clearly been alerted to Crawford's presence, but paused when she sensed the atmosphere in the room. Miss Sullivan, Crawford stood. I owe you an apology. Several, actually, starting with my inexcusable actions during the takeover attempt. Emma moved to stand beside Alex's chair, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Go on. I'd like to propose a partnership, Crawford continued. Not a merger. You've proven Sullivan Technologies is stronger independent, but a collaboration on expanding the talent initiative. My companies have resources that could help scale the program nationally. Alex and Emma exchanged glances. This was unexpected, but not unwelcome. Why the change of heart? Emma asked directly. Crawford sighed, seeming to age years in moments. Yesterday, after your press conference, I visited some of my company's facilities. Really visited them, not just the executive areas. I found innovations being implemented at every level. Small changes in efficiency, security improvements, cost-saving measures. All created by employees whose names I didn't even know. He pulled out his phone, showing them photos. This loading dock redesign, suggested by a warehouse worker 2 years ago, but the proposal never made it past middle management. This security protocol, developed by a night guard, but no one thought to pass it up the chain. I've been sitting on a gold mine of talent and innovation, too blind to see it. Emma sat in the chair next to Alex's, her professional mask softening slightly. And what exactly are you proposing? A joint initiative. Sullivan Technologies' talent identification program combined with Crawford Enterprises' national infrastructure. We could create opportunities across the country, maybe even internationally. He looked directly at Alex. With your story as the proof of concept, Alex leaned forward. It's not just about creating opportunities. It's about changing how we see potential, how we value different kinds of experience and knowledge. Exactly, Crawford agreed eagerly. That's why I'm here. Not just to apologize or propose a partnership, but to learn, to understand how I missed something so obvious for so long. The discussion that followed lasted hours. Sarah and Mike joined them, contributing insights from their own experiences implementing the talent initiative. By afternoon, what had started as an awkward apology had evolved into a comprehensive plan for nationwide expansion. There's one condition, Emma stated, as they reviewed the final proposal. The program maintains its original spirit. This isn't about corporate PR or social responsibility metrics. It's about recognizing real talent in unexpected places. Agreed, Crawford nodded. In fact, He hesitated, then continued, I'd like to start with my own companies. A full audit of unexplored talent, overlooked suggestions, ignored innovations. Would you be willing to oversee that, Mr. Chen? Alex felt Emma's hand squeeze his shoulder. This was more than a professional victory. It was validation of everything they'd been fighting for. On one condition, Alex replied. We start with your maintenance and security staff. Sometimes the best insights come from the people who keep your world running. As Crawford left to prepare the partnership announcements, Emma perched on the edge of Alex's desk. Did that really just happen? Did Richard Crawford really just admit he was wrong and ask for our help? Apparently, Alex grinned, pulling her closer. I'm not the only one whose life you've changed. The news of the partnership broke that afternoon, sending shockwaves through the corporate world. Talent Revolution started trending on social media, with people sharing their own stories of hidden abilities and overlooked potential. Maria's Café became an unofficial headquarters for the movement, hosting meetings between executives and employees who had never had a voice before. Lucas, fully recovered, started a mentoring program connecting experienced professionals with emerging talent from unexpected backgrounds. That evening, Alex and Emma stood on the Sullivan Technologies rooftop, watching the sunset paint the city gold. The same view that had once seemed to symbolize the distance between their worlds now represented the bridges they'd built. You know what makes me happiest about all this? Emma mused, leaning back against his chest. That Crawford finally admitted he was wrong? No. She turned to face him, her eyes sparkling. That now everyone else sees what I saw that day in the service corridor, that sometimes the most extraordinary people come in the most ordinary packages. Alex pulled her closer. I wouldn't call you ordinary. I meant you impossible man. She kissed him softly. Though I suppose neither of us is ordinary anymore. We're something new, something that proves what's possible when people look past titles and backgrounds to see real potential. Below them, the city buzzed with energy, with possibilities. In offices and maintenance rooms, in security stations, and cleaning closets, people who had never dared to dream bigger were starting to look up, to speak up, to step up. So what's next? Alex asked, though he already knew the answer in his heart. Emma's smile was radiant. We keep building bridges. We keep finding hidden talent. We keep proving that love and success don't care about social status or corporate hierarchies. As the last rays of sun painted the sky in shades of promise, they stood together, a former maintenance worker and a CEO who had changed not just their own lives, but countless others. Their story had become more than a romance. It had become a revolution. 3 months after Crawford's unexpected partnership proposal, Alex stood on a stage in Chicago, addressing a packed auditorium of business leaders and employees from all levels of corporate America. The Sullivan Crawford Talent Initiative had spread like wildfire, transforming companies and lives across the country. 6 months ago, I was fixing air conditioning units and serving coffee. he began, his voice carrying the quiet confidence that had become his trademark. Today, I'm here to tell you that the next great innovation in your company might come from the person who cleaned your office last night, or the security guard who greeted you this morning. In the front row, Emma watched with pride as her boyfriend, now fiancé, though they'd kept that news quiet for now, commanded the attention of some of the most powerful people in business. Behind her, Crawford nodded approvingly, his own transformation from adversary to ally complete. But this isn't about my story anymore, Alex continued. It's about Maria Garcia, who turned a small cafe into a thriving business enterprise. It's about Mike Rodriguez, whose security innovations are now industry standard. It's about thousands of others who just needed someone to look past their job titles and see their true potential. The screens behind him filled with faces and stories, success after success from companies that had implemented their program. A janitor whose understanding of traffic flow had revolutionized warehouse logistics. A receptionist whose people skills had transformed customer service training. A maintenance worker whose practical experience had identified millions in potential cost savings. The talent revolution isn't just about finding hidden abilities, Alex explained. It's about changing how we think about capability itself. Every person in this room has unique insights, valuable perspectives, untapped potential. The only question is, are we brave enough to look for it in unexpected places? As he spoke, Alex caught Emma's eye. She touched the engagement ring hidden beneath her blazer, a simple band that had once belonged to his mother, chosen over the expensive diamonds her position might have expected. Like everything in their relationship, it represented choosing authenticity over appearance. After the presentation, as business leaders crowded around to share their own company's transformation stories, Emma pulled Alex aside into a quiet corridor. "That was incredible," she whispered, straightening his tie in a gesture that had become habit. "But you didn't tell them the biggest news. About the engagement, we agreed to keep that quiet until—" "No." Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "About the White House." Alex's heart raced. The previous day's call from the president's office had seemed surreal, an invitation to bring their talent initiative to the federal government level. "It didn't feel right to announce it without you," he said softly. "You're the one who started all this, who saw potential in a maintenance worker with duct-taped shoes. And you're the one who proved me right." She kissed him quickly, professionally. Aware of their semi-public location, the Presidential Commission on Workforce Innovation wants us both together. Their moment was interrupted by Sarah, who had been promoted to Chief of Staff for their expanding initiative. "Sorry to interrupt, but you both need to see this. Crawford's companies just released their first quarterly results since implementing the program." The numbers were staggering. Employee satisfaction up 89%, innovation metrics through the roof, cost savings in the millions. But more importantly, lives had been transformed. People who had never dreamed of advancement were discovering and developing their talents. "It's happening everywhere," Mike appeared, tablet in hand. "Just got reports from 20 more companies implementing the program. The talent revolution is going viral." They gathered in a nearby conference room, reviewing the expanding impact of their work. Lucas, now heading the mentorship division, joined them via video call from a new program launch in Boston. "The thing is," he reported, his face beaming on the screen, "once people start looking for hidden talent, they find it everywhere. It's like we've given them new eyes." Maria chimed in from another video window, her cafe visible behind her. Now, the first of a growing chain of successful locations. Had 3 corporate CEOs in for coffee this morning. They're not just implementing the program, they're changing how they think about talent altogether. As they discussed the expanding initiative, Alex felt a familiar sense of wonder. Every success story, every transformed life carried echoes of his own journey. But something else was happening too, something bigger than individual success stories. "We're not just finding hidden talent," Emma mused, reviewing the latest data. "We're changing the entire conversation about human potential, about what makes someone qualified, valuable, capable." Crawford, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "When I think about how many people I overlooked over the years, how many brilliant minds I dismissed because they didn't fit my narrow view of success." He shook his head. "This isn't just a corporate initiative anymore. It's a movement." Alex stood, moving to the window that overlooked the Chicago skyline. Somewhere in those gleaming towers and busy streets, countless others waited for their chance, their moment to prove their worth. "The White House initiative could change everything," he said thoughtfully. "Imagine implementing this at the federal level. Every government agency, every department, looking at their workforce with new eyes." Emma joined him at the window, their reflections merging in the glass. "Imagine implementing it everywhere, not just in government or big corporations, but in every workplace, every organization, learning to see the potential in all their people." The room fell quiet as the magnitude of their vision sank in. They weren't just changing corporate policies or creating advancement opportunities. They were challenging fundamental assumptions about human potential and worth. "You know what this means?" Sarah smiled, checking her ever-present tablet. "You two aren't just a romantic success story anymore. You're actually changing the world." 1 year to the day after Alex, Chen saved Emma Sullivan's life in a service corridor. They stood together in the White House Rose Garden. The Presidential Commission on Workforce Innovation was announcing its adoption of the Sullivan-Crawford Talent Initiative across all federal agencies. But for Alex and Emma, this day held an even more personal significance. "Ready?" Emma whispered, squeezing his hand. Her white dress was elegant but simple, like their relationship, focused on substance over show. "Born ready," Alex replied, the same words he'd used that first day in the service corridor. His suit was new, but his shoes were carefully polished work boots, a reminder of where he came from. They had chosen this day for their wedding deliberately. Not for the publicity or prestige, but because it marked the moment their worlds had collided and changed forever. The guest list reflected the bridge they'd built between those worlds. Corporate executives sat beside maintenance workers, government officials next to security guards. Maria had catered the reception, her once small cafe now a successful enterprise. Lucas, fully recovered and thriving as head of the mentorship program, stood as Alex's best man. Mike Rodriguez, heading his own security innovation firm, coordinated with Secret Service to ensure everything ran smoothly. But before they could exchange their vows, they had one last piece of business to conduct. "Ladies and gentlemen," the president addressed the gathered crowd. "We're here today not just to celebrate a wedding, but to announce a transformation in how our government and our nation thinks about human potential." The screens behind them displayed the results of the Talent Initiative's first year. Over 10,000 lives transformed, millions in innovation savings, and countless stories of hidden talent discovered and developed. But numbers tell only part of the story. Alex stepped forward, his voice carrying across the garden. "The real story is about people, about Maria Garcia, who turned coffee and determination into a business empire, about Mike Rodriguez, who saw patterns others missed, about every person who just needed someone to look past their title and see their potential." Emma joined him at the podium, their unity visible for all to see. "When I first met Alex, he was fixing an air conditioning unit and working 3 jobs. Society saw a maintenance worker. I saw someone extraordinary. But the real revelation wasn't just finding one hidden talent. It was realizing how many others were out there, waiting to be discovered. Richard Crawford, now one of their strongest allies, stepped up next. This initiative has transformed not just individual lives, but entire corporate cultures. We're not just finding talent, we're changing how we think about capability itself. The announcement that followed exceeded even their initial hopes. A national mandate for talent recognition programs in all federal contracts. Companies wanting government work would need to implement similar initiatives, creating a ripple effect throughout the entire economy. But as the business portion of the day concluded, the garden transformed for a more personal celebration. The same people who had witnessed their professional triumph now gathered to celebrate their love. When I first met Emma Sullivan, Alex began his vows. I was wearing duct-taped shoes and carrying a maintenance toolkit. She looked past all that and saw me, really saw me. But more importantly, she taught me to see myself. Emma's eyes glistened as she responded. When I first met Alex Chen, he saved my life with nothing but maintenance knowledge and courage. He taught me that true worth isn't measured by titles or backgrounds, but by the size of one's heart and the strength of one's character. As they exchanged rings, his mother's band for her, a simple steel ring for him, their guests reflected the change they'd created in the world. Sarah Thompson, now Chief Operating Officer of their expanding initiative, sat beside Kevin, her former security guard husband. Lucas's physical therapist, now his fiancée, wiped away tears. The reception that followed was a celebration not just of their love, but of transformation itself. Maria's catering staff, all graduates of their training program, served gourmet dishes with professional flair. Mike's security team, comprised entirely of talent initiative graduates, maintained discreet but effective coverage. "You know what makes me happiest?" Emma said softly as they shared their first dance. "Not the success or the recognition, but the lives we've changed. Every person here has their own story of discovery, of potential recognized." Alex spun her gently, remembering their journey. "And we're just getting started. The federal program will open doors we haven't even imagined yet." As if on cue, Sarah approached with her tablet. Some habits never changed. "Sorry to interrupt, but you both need to see this. The UN just reached out. They want to implement the program internationally." Emma laughed, resting her head on Alex's shoulder. "Can't even take a wedding day off from changing the world?" "Why would we want to?" Alex smiled, holding her close. "Changing the world is what we do best, together." The celebration continued into the evening, but it wasn't just a wedding reception anymore. It was a testament to possibility, to the power of seeing potential in unexpected places. Every person there represented a life transformed, a talent discovered, a barrier broken. As the sun set over the rose garden, casting golden light across the gathered faces, Alex and Emma stood together, neither CEO nor former maintenance worker, but partners in every sense. "Ready for our next adventure?" Emma asked, her eyes bright with possibility. "With you." Alex kissed her softly. "Always." Their story had become more than a romance, more than a success story. It had become a movement, a revolution in how society recognizes and values human potential. And as they looked out over their gathered guests, each one a testament to hidden talent discovered, they knew that this was just the beginning. Sometimes the greatest changes start with a single moment, a single choice to see someone for who they truly are. For Alex and Emma, that moment in a service corridor had transformed not just their lives, but countless others. And their story continues to inspire others to look past titles and backgrounds, to find the extraordinary hiding in plain sight. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to I pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of transformation, love, and the power of seeing the potential in others.